Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. 3 boxes, 3 stories, 2 of them connected and 2 of them related. So that's what you can expect in this video. Tyson Fury, the former unified heavyweight champion. He looks like he is actually going to get into some serious training, or has started it. Until now, I have actually held off doing much because I haven't been convinced that the Gypsy King was really serious. I mean, we have had a few false starts after all. But I'm prepared to dip my toe back in the pond and tentatively believe that this comeback is a real thing, that he is on the comeback trail. And what changed my mind a little was a few training videos that he has posted on social media in which he is moving remarkably well for a man 350 plus pounds. So take a look. Tell me what you think. For that second one, there was an accompanying little blurb that said, "Watch me go for a fat man. I got the moves, feeling good in the gym second week back. Coming for all the stiff heavyweights out there. Belly's gonna get you. At Return of the Mac, at Let's Get This Party Started, at Fury, at Fat Man." And he certainly never fails to entertain, and that's for sure. I just hope that his motivation is as long-lasting as his sense of humour. I mean, for me, he's got a very long road back to being in proper fighting shape. And realistically, it's probably a 2-year project. But we might start seeing him take on a few lower level fighters to blow off some ring rust. You know, maybe sometime next year, mid next year, late next year. And I know that there is a lot of talk of a Fury fight with Anthony Joshua in mid 2018. There's a lot of that talk floating around, but I just don't see it. It's going to take him 3, 4, 5 fights just to really get back into a good groove, build his confidence. And I know that there's some people that think he can get in there now and beat Joshua or others, but he does actually need to be in proper condition. He needs to blow off that ring rust, and he needs to come at this like in a really professional manner. I mean, at a push, I could see him being back in the ring in a big fight, maybe in 18 months, but that's at a push. And he'd really need to be living a Spartan lifestyle and really commit himself to being disciplined to his training. But, you know, from what we see on social media, he seems to be living a bit of a mix. You know, he started training, but there's a few luxuries as well. I mean, clearly there's been a lot of luxuries in the past couple of years since he beat Vladimir Klitschko. And a few other things as well. But, I mean, he seems to be in a good place mentally right now. He obviously has got some motivation to get back in the ring. And if he truly wants the Joshua fight and wants to be in great shape, there can be no shortcuts. The 2015 version of Fury, it gives Joshua and others a world of trouble in the ring because of his skills, movement, and all-round awkwardness. But can he ever get back to that version of himself? It's certainly debatable. What do you make of that? Drop a comment on it. But I was encouraged by those training clips. He does seem to have a bit of a road back, but at least he's on the road. So I wish him all the best as he attempts to get in shape for a ring return. And Tyson Fury, he is the instigator behind story number 2, tweeting, "If Anthony Joshua fights Joseph Parker, he will bet anybody in the world £5,000 cash that Parker will KO Joshua." And there could be a number of motivations behind that tweet, which obviously respective fans will undoubtedly have an opinion on and want to weigh in on in the comments. So drop a comment. What do you make of this? We know that Tyson and Parker, they get on like a house on fire. And Fury even went drinking with Parker and his crew after the New Zealander beat the Gypsy King's cousin, Hughie Fury, in September. There's obviously mutual respect between the pair. I mean, and that was also, you know, on display when there was a press conference a couple of months back ahead of the Hughie Fury Joseph Parker fight, where instead of talking Parker down and talking up his cousin, he went on to talk about his respect for Parker, etc., and they later hugged it out in front of our eyes, in front of the cameras. It kind of was a bit of, it was nice, but it was unexpected and not what you would have expected when you're the cousin of the fighter fighting the other guy that you're just talking up. It was, yeah, certainly I was a little surprised, but clearly a lot of mutual respect there. So Fury knows that Parker is gunning for Joshua. He's trying to get that deal made for a fight sometime in 2018. And maybe it serves as some moral support. It could also be a tactic to try get under Joshua's skin, because, just needle him a little bit, because they do have that history. There is a bit of an ongoing rivalry and banter between the pair. You might remember that tweet from last week, where Joshua said, "Get fit, you fat," something or other. Whatever the case may be, though, it's a good point of discussion, because I know a lot of AJ fans will believe that Parker, he will be laid out before he ever gets the chance to knock out Joshua. And some Parker fans, they really do think Parker might be the one capable of cracking the Anthony Joshua code. Coming up, Parker was regarded as a knockout artist. That was a big thing in the marketing of him, that he was knocking guys out. But remember, a lot of these guys were sort of, they were top 200 type guys. They weren't top 20 guys. But the tag of being a knockout artist, that has faded somewhat after being taken the distance 4 times in his past 6 fights. So he did get the knockout over Demetrenko and Hamono, but you had Takam, and then his last 3 fights against Ruiz, Cajanu, and Hughie Fury, it all went the distance. So the discussion on the power front in regards to Parker, it is more shifted to, does he actually have enough power? And can he take care of the top guys? I guess one question I have related to the power is, what did that bulking up process that they undertook, sort of happened in the past 18 months, what impact has that had on Parker in respect of his power? Because when he started bulking up, we know it actually reduced some of his hand and possibly foot speed a touch. But did that actually have some impact on his power? I don't know. But Will dropping back down, because that's what they're saying they're going to do, from his most recent weight of 246, and he was 250 for the Cajanu fight. If he drops back to the high 230s, is that going to make a difference to speed or power? It's a good question. It's easy to speculate, and we won't really know until he's back in the ring at a lighter weight. For the Takam fight, where he looked pretty decent, he got that win, it was a close fight, he was actually 234, 235 pounds from memory. I'm in 2 minds about this knockout over Joshua, whether he can get it or not. I actually think he's probably got a better chance of getting a win by going the distance. I could see him employing some of the back foot tactics that he used so well, along with movement, in those Takam and Ruiz fights. He actually showed he had a pretty decent back foot game. And sort of, I think, from that point onwards, perceptions of him started to change from just being a come forward, rock 'em, sock 'em sort of fighter to actually, this guy's got some pretty decent skills and he can show you some different looks depending on the style matchup. At the moment, Parker and his promoter, they've made a lot of the fact that Parker hasn't been down in the amateurs sparring or as a professional. That is an indicator that his chin is decent. But I definitely think you can make the argument the other way, that actually he hasn't come up against punches like Joshua or Wilder. So we don't really know how he's going to hold up until he takes one, or flush, or at least close to flush. And those guys can bang. I really like the fight between Parker and Joshua. I think there's a number of factors and intriguing storylines that could play out, 1 in the build-up, but 2 on the fight night itself. I'm really hoping that it does get made for 2018, and as you would have seen from my video the other day, I'm not actually going to be commenting on the negotiations because I'm sort of over that. I just hope that they get a deal done, because it would be a good fight. And the third thing that I wanted to raise actually involves Parker and Parker's last opponent, Hughie Fury. So there was a press release that popped up from Hennessy Sports that I really can't make heads or tails of. And I'll explain why in a moment. But first, here's a taste of the release itself. Hughie Fury is totally convinced Joseph Parker will do everything possible to swerve a world heavyweight title rematch because he already knows the result. He'd lose his WBO crown. Fury slipped to his first career defeat against the New Zealander in September, with the scoring wildly different as two judges had Parker winning by 8 rounds while the third scored it a draw at Manchester Arena. The verdict caused a huge bust-up, with Furious promoter Mick Hennessy calling the decision corruption at its highest level in boxing. Speaking for the first time at length about his loss, Fury, 23, insisted, "I'm certain that Parker or his team didn't want a rematch and will do everything in their power not to have it. Why would Parker want to go through that again? I made a world champion who was supposed to be a massive puncher look very ordinary and basic." There's some comments then about the judging. Fury watching reruns of the fight and sort of agonising over that. Noting also selected media outlets thought that Fury had won. Deontay Wilder also thought Fury had won. And then some commentary about Parker's reaction to having won the fight. And followed by finally, he'll be back in 2018. They've been working on some things, opponent to come soon. So the whole press release, it left me scratching my head. What exactly was the purpose here? And that's a legitimate question. Just on the rematch thing, of course Parker doesn't want a rematch. He's moved on. He's lining up other future title defences. I mean, to suggest that he's going to swerve a rematch, why would a rematch be happening anyway? It's rare that we see an immediate rematch, and let alone for a fight that was poorly promoted by Mick Hennessy, had a terrible undercard, and the main event underwhelmed in the sense it was a stinker stylistically. So yeah, I think Parker and his team will steer clear of what would likely be another train wreck of an event. But coming back to the release itself, this sort of thing needed to be done in the days after the fight, when they were lodging their appeal to the WBO about the judges' scorecards. It is now almost 2 months on since the fight. So this press release came out a couple of days ago. Now it's almost 2 months removed from the fight. This sort of thing, this press release, it's just absolutely pointless. And no wonder it has hardly received any traction in the media. The sheer farce of it all, it is what prompted me to even mention it. And consider that 100% of the content, or maybe 95% of the content, it was actually said in the days after the September fight, either by Mick Hennessy, Hughie Fury, or Peter Fury. There was nothing new in it. Even the headline, it was just a rinse and repeat job. We've heard it all before. And just to note, the WBO has emailed me back in relation to Hennessy Sports' post-fight appeal to the WBO, which was partially rejected a month or so ago. The part that is still in play, it was forwarded to the WBO's Championship Committee to determine if there were any substantial irregularities in the bout. So in response to some of the questions that I raised, the WBO has come back to me, this is a couple of days or a week ago, whatever it was. It said, well, actually, we're not going to say anything to you, and if we did say anything, it would only be to Hennessy Sports. So unfortunately, can't shed any light further there. And I was actually just looking over their notice of appeal from Hennessy Sports a little bit earlier, and it still strikes me as a bold move that Hennessy Sports would raise that there was potentially a medical issue or disability relating to USA Judge John Madfis. Now that was ballsy indeed just to even suggest it. So, I mean, I wonder what they thought was going on there. Anyway, what did you make of Tyson Fury's training clips? Is this real? Is the comeback real? What did you make of Fury's claim that Parker can knock out Joshua? And also, the Hughie Fury press release. Head scratcher for me, what do you think? You can actually find that on Hennessy Sports' website. But if you see the date, November, whatever it was, just imagine it's July and it could have been just as relevant then. Just a quick note also, shout out to subscriber John Gower for his boxing Facebook page, which is a really good news aggregator for the latest heavyweight news. So often things pop up there before you see it surface elsewhere, and it's given me a few good leads to go on for vids and whatnot, so thank you, John. Page is called Joseph Parker vs. Anthony Joshua, Day of Destiny. That's Joseph Parker vs. Anthony Joshua, Day of Destiny. The verse bit is spelt VS. Anyway, drop a comment, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.